All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, sorry, people are still coming in. There's a
I'll stay on that, John.
okay, fantastic. Yeah, I keep getting the ding as things come in. All right. So we're going to go ahead and I'll share the presentation, but as you'll see, the presentation is about 4 slides. So we figured the easiest way to get into Gmail is really on is really obviously getting into it and using it and clicking around. Um, I will say this: one of the things that's very helpful, and I'd suggest this for Google Meet or Gmail, whatever. Find a buddy. Okay, it's always nice when you have a buddy that you can email and say, hey, what does this look like? So yeah, Jenny is my buddy that I can
I was
email
gonna
and she can email me and we can say, hey,
I was gonna say the same.
yeah, did it work? Did it work? Did it, show me what you got? Because even especially in Google Classroom, it's nice to have the student view. Google Meet, it's nice to know what it looks like when you do something. Like for me, I mean, my background, we were joking earlier, my background shows everything backwards, but for you, I think that right there actually does say Menifee, but when I see it, it's forward. And it's nice to see those kind of things. So um, highly recommend that you have the buddy to be able to practice things with. All right. I know a few more people entered, so I'll go ahead and share that presentation. And I'm gonna let me go ahead and jump into that. All right. So for this presentation, like I said, it's not a whole lot, but just Gmail for beginners. That's obviously the session that we're going over. Um, the best resources you can find for this, and this is kind of me being snarky. I don't know if you've ever used Let Me Google That for you, but that's what these links go to. They do a Let Me Google That for you. But the easiest way to get information about Gmail is, oddly enough, to go to Google and search for it. Now, Google's really good at finding the information that they put out there about Gmail. Why? Because it's kind of their thing. So um, if you want documentation, you can search for Gmail tutorials. Um, if you want videos, just add the word videos to it. Okay. The other thing that's on this, and this is just a resource for you, and I apologize for the cramped slide, but I wanted to try to get everything onto a single slide so that you could see it. Um, but essentially, this is kind of the basics of Gmail. Where are the things that you need to know? Where are the things that that are there that are helpful? And so we're going to walk through a couple of these. Actually, probably going to walk through all of them, just to make sure that as far as Gmail is concerned. I saw a couple of the questions, and yeah, we're just going to go ahead and hit that. Right, and then we have a wonderful transition slide. So if you've I'm hoping everybody here has been to Gmail, but it's just mail.google.com, or if you see the little waffle button on most Google pages, you can click that and there's a Gmail button. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump over to that. So I'm going to click the waffle and I'm going to hit Gmail, and I'm going to go down to a certain label, just so not all of my emails are kind of hanging out, because I know you may not want to see all the emails that are going there. Okay. All right. So to kind of jump in, I will say this. I know that there was a couple of questions about the Gmail versus Outlook, and I'm not going to lie. The first thing I did when I jumped into Gmail is I tried to make it look more like Outlook. And what that is to me is, I like when I click an email and there's the side reading panel, because I don't like to have to click an email and there's a back button. I'll show you what that looks like. But as far as customizing Gmail, there's this little setting in the upper right-hand corner. It's just a little cog. And you can usually click on it. Let me see. I may have been clicking something a little weird. All right, so the settings button, there we go. So the settings button, it allows you to customize some things inside of Gmail. One of the things that I know some people like, and this works on a computer, if you get it on your phone, it doesn't necessarily work, but you can change the background. So you can change the background that's in Gmail. So if you want to make sure that your business email looks different, you can put it in dark mode, or you can go to this one, or you can make it a soft gray or a mustard. I don't know why anybody would do that, but hey, it's an option. So you can change what your Gmail actually looks like. So the difference. Just if you look at the screen, it's kind of a visual cue of, oh, I'm in my personal Gmail, or oh, I'm in my work Gmail. So that's kind of a nice little feature that's there. Let me go ahead and close that out. Other things that you can do inside of here, there's a bunch of different inboxes. So somebody was asking, can I make it so I pin certain emails to the top? You can, and that's by changing your inbox, where you could say, hey, just give me the important things first. So if you mark an email as important, then it'll go ahead and keep it up there at the top. So that is one of the ways that you can do it, but it is a different inbox. So it changes a little bit more than that. So again, it's something to maybe play with. But I honestly, I leave mine pretty vanilla. I leave my Gmail pretty simple. Down below, this is where, this is usually what Gmail looks like, where you have to click an email and you have to click a back button. That's just way too many clicks for me. So I like the right of the inbox reading pane. So I can just click and go down my emails, and I can mark them all as read, and I can be done. Another thing that's interesting is conversation view. That's a really fun one. So if you notice, this one is actually 6 emails, but it's only got one little box. So I can click on it and I can see that all of my emails in that string are right here. If I were to turn that off, they would be separated. And I like to know that I responded to something, but total personal preference. But that's just kind of some of the visual changes that you can do. And if you want to try one out, obviously you saw I clicked it, didn't like it. So I chose the other option. Okay. So feel free to click around, try it. I used to have a professor that said, hey, it's not written in stone. It's in Google. You can change it. So some nice things that you can try. There's also a see all settings button, so you can see all of the settings that are inside of Gmail. There are a lot. For the most part, I tend to stick on the general page, but labels sounds like a weird word. That's what Outlook used to call folders, but labels are a little bit, I think they're a little bit cooler. And then there's also things like filters. Filters are really kind of neat. Outlook used to call them rules, if you're familiar with Outlook. So those are some of the things that were that are kind of nice. Let's see, a couple of the settings that are neat. There's a default text style under general. You can change, if you want to send an email and you want every email to be in Comic Sans, and you want the text to be huge, and you want the color to be just attention grabbing, you can do that. And then every time you start typing an email, that's what it's going to look like.
Now, John, would that be a best practice?
I don't know that Comic Sans is ever a best practice, but I know a lot of people like to customize their emails with stationery inside of Outlook, and so this is kind of a way that you can do that. You can always change as you get into an email, but if you hate going into an email and saying, oh, I always want it to be this font, and so every time you open an email, you change the font, that's where you could do it, where you don't have to change the font every time. Other things on here that people tend to like, there's the desktop notifications. If you turn that on, I don't like to turn those on. That's why I have mine off, but you can turn yours on. And then you can have multiple signatures. So this is where you can set your signatures, and you can always create a new signature and say test. I'll do it in all caps. And if I did that, I could really mess people and say, this is not really John. And if I wanted that to be a signature in my email, I could do that. Signature defaults, by the way, this is a good checkbox to have checked. But signature defaults, you can say, hey, when I start a new email, what signature do I want to use? When I reply to an email or forward an email, what signature do I want to use? And then everybody's favorite, the vacation responder. This is where you can set your vacation responder. Okay. Notice I was actually out. I took a vacation. So even though my vacation responder is on, it doesn't work right now because I said don't send it after June 25th. Okay. And one of the very few times that Google actually has a save changes button. So if you change any settings, make sure you hit save changes. All right. So just a couple of settings, a couple of things might be nice to know, but getting your, if you're new to Gmail and you needed to kind of get it set up, figured that wouldn't be a bad thing. But let me just do a quick check. I know we had something in the chat. Let me go ahead and, there we go. Are there templates that can be saved to respond to frequently asked questions? Yes. Yeah, you can definitely create templates. Let me see. Oh, that wasn't the button that I wanted to press. I wanted to press this one. So let me go back here. All right. So first thing, and this is something that there we go. Something that I don't do a whole lot of, so I'll do my best. Let's see, Gmail templates. So, and as you can see, like I said, Google's really good at finding Google stuff. So create email templates. So to create the email templates, you're going here and seeing all settings, advanced, in templates, and click enable. Okay, so let's go do that. Advanced. So I'm in my settings. So I click settings, see all settings, advanced, and notice I have it disabled, so I can actually turn on enable. Let me go down to the bottom. Did it catch that? All right. So it's not requiring me to save anything, but let's jump back out to, although it does want me to save. Let's try that again. All right, so settings. I think my internet connection is just a little bit slow, but we're going to jump in there. Advanced and enable. There we go. Now I can save. Oh, let's go down. Let's check this out. So create or change the templates. So notice you can get up to 50. So when you can compose and click the more and do your templates there. So as you can tell, I obviously don't have any templates that are saved, but I could come here and I could create my templates. Okay, so that is an option that you can do. So I'm trying to think of what I would use a template for to come up with a more of an authentic example, but don't really have that at the moment. I wish I got asked the same questions.
So I get asked the same question right
Yeah.
now. I'm opening up a virtual school, and is there a room in XYZ grade? And unless they're asking about 7th, I have a wait list. So thank you so much for your interest in our virtual school. We're currently at a wait list, but we encourage you to join that wait list. I would can that. And I'll speak softer because I'm getting picked up on John's mic, sorry. So I could can that and send that reply out to parents as they're asking, unless they're 7th grade, which I say come.
Sorry about that, I muted myself. So I could, go to templates and then I could save my draft as a template. I'll save it as a new template. Virtual school question. So it grabbed the subject of the email and it went ahead and did that. So I can hit save. And now when I create, let me go ahead and delete that. So now when I create a new email, I can come over here, templates, virtual school question. Okay. By the way, if you need to remove your signature, you can always come here and say no signature. Or I could have saved the template without the signature. So that would have definitely been a better option. So yeah, you can definitely save templates. Okay. All right. Let me get rid of that because otherwise it will end up in my draft emails. And for some reason, that's something that's more of a pet peeve of mine. I just don't like drafts. All right.
John, we had 2 other questions in the chat from way back. I'll go ahead and kind of give a summary of them. Some of them you kind of touched on, but you might want to, you know, direct a little bit more. One was, how does Gmail group emails? And I know that you kind of showed that already. The other one was from a previous Outlook user. She used to pin emails to the top of the inbox. How might she do that in Gmail?
Yeah, so as far as groups are concerned, a lot of that depends on whether or not your district has given you the ability to create groups, or you know, if that's something that you want to do. You can always, inside of your another place you can go is I opened up a new tab. You can go to contacts.google.com, which I believe is also available inside the waffle. So I can click on contacts, and just so I'm not showing everybody's email, sorry. So inside of contacts, you can actually create a contact group. So if you had a group of people that you always emailed, and it's always the same group, like for me, that would be my tech group. I could make a group of contacts called tech. And then, let me see, if I come here, I could do, I could email the tech group. Sorry, I know I'm sharing emails, but yeah, I could type in the tech group and then it would just email the tech group. And it would include everybody's email inside of there. That is something that you can do, is you can create your own contact group. But as far as Google, I don't know if the question was about Google groups. If you have the ability to make a Google group, then you could go to, you know, inside, let me get rid of that, inside the waffle. If you have the ability, let's see, am I missing it? Maybe it's not inside the waffle. Sorry. So at groups.google.com, you would be able to make a group, and you could email a group there. And a group is kind of like a it works the same as a contact group. And actually, I think the contact groups are a little bit more self-explanatory, because that's the one that's a lot more like what you would do inside of Outlook. But if you create a contact group, then you can always type in that group. Like, so for me, I have tech department all. If I email tech department all, then that will go ahead and email everybody who is in that group. Okay. So that is one option. As far as the pinning the emails to the top, you can do this a couple of ways. One is you could, I know I went over under settings, you could change the kind of inbox that you have. So you could do like an important first or a starred first. The other thing that you can do, and I actually really like this option, is on every email there's a star, and you can click, I can click this. So if I star this email, then it's going to show up in my, oh, I hid my starred folder. Let me go ahead and, sorry, let me unhide my starred folder. Okay. All right, fantastic. So because I starred this email, if I click on starred, here's the email that's right here, is I actually have my starred email. And then when you're done taking care of it, you can click the star and it'll be gone. So it actually removes it from that label. So that is one option of how to keep them at the top, but it does, I know it's not necessarily in the inbox, but that is, I would say probably the easiest way, so that you could always see, okay, how many emails do I have in my starred email? And I could even do something like, I could star this and mark it as unread. Okay, so now when I come here, I know I have an unread email or something that I need to address inside of my inside of my starred folder. Okay, let me unstar that. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw, I can mark an email as read or unread just by clicking this envelope. Another fun thing too is you can actually archive an email, which is not deleting it. It just archives it. What that means is it pulls it out of your inbox. So if you're somebody who goes to your inbox and you like to see it empty, archiving just takes it out of the inbox. It doesn't delete it. It doesn't put it in your trash. It just takes it out of the inbox. So you can still search for it. So, you know, there's a search bar up here. Deleting, obviously, that's moving to trash. Here's another fun one. And this is the I just can't right now button. So if you get an email and you look at it and it's 4:30 on a Friday and you read it and you're like, I just can't. I just can't right now. You could always snooze an email. So you could pick one of the times that it tells you, or you could pick an exact date and time. You know, I could even, somebody's been asking like, oh, how far can I snooze an email into the future? So if I only wanted to view this email in 39 years, so in 39 years, I want to do this, okay, and I save that, then on July 16th of 2060 at 8 a.m., that email will actually go to the very top of my inbox. So if you can't deal with it now, and probably more of a practical example of that is, let's say I snooze it till tomorrow at 8, like I can't deal with it today, it's 4:30, I need to go home, but tomorrow morning I want to address this. If I snooze it till tomorrow at 8 a.m., then tomorrow at 8 a.m., there it is, top of my inbox. And it will say, you snooze this email. So that's kind of a nice little feature. Let's see, another couple of things that are very interesting is, you know, when you're organizing your emails, obviously you can grab an email and drag it to a folder. So if I take this one, let's say I drag it to test, it's gone. And I go to test and there it is. Well, what if I think it belongs in both places? And this is kind of cool. So in Outlook, they were called folders. So if you think of like an actual folder, a folder is the thing, and you put an email inside of a folder, that's where the email lives. Whereas Gmail, they're labels. So you can actually take one email and label it with a bunch of different things. So if I click on this, and I can either go here to labels, or if you're a right clicker, you can right click on the email and you can label. You can create new labels, but let's say I wanted to have it as test and I also wanted it to be in training. So notice I'm in my test label and there's the email. If I go to training, same email. So you can actually take an email and put it in two places. So let's say you have, you know, you have an email that it kind of goes into two different places. You can actually put it in both places and you'd be able to find it in both places. So kind of a nice little feature. That's the one difference about labels. What was it? One of the things I loved, Alice Keeler yesterday, and I believe in her session, she talks about how she puts a hashtag in front of her her assignments. So she'll do like hashtag assignment 003. Well, that's really nice because then when I come in here, I can search for all the emails that would have hashtag 003. And I could pull those all up. Okay, I don't have any that really fit that, but that is something that you could do, is you could search for all the emails that are there. Let's say you had a folder, you know, your Google Classroom notifications, you want everything to go into a certain folder. Well, if you find one email, you can actually create a filter for those so that every time something comes into your inbox, you can say, don't leave it in the inbox, move it here. Okay, so I could do something like that where I can say, I can click three dots and say filter messages like these. You can say, hey, if it's from John Morgan, if it has this subject in it, if it has these words in it, if it has an attachment, okay? And I could say create a filter, not just search, but create a filter. And I could say, okay, I don't want it to be in my inbox. You could star it, mark it as red. I could even give it a specific label. So if I give it a specific label, that means it's going to put it into one of my folders or one of my labels. I could say, okay, if it's from John, it's going to go into test. I could even apply this to anything that's already in my inbox. If you really don't like me, you can just say delete it, but I'd have to uncheck the other ones. So those are things that you can do. And when you create the filter, what it'll do is not only because I have this box checked, it's going to apply to everything that's in my inbox, then anything that comes in that matches that same filter, it's going to say, okay, do this, do this, do this. Okay. So if you like to get those Google Classroom messages, but it means that you miss a lot of other things, have it skip the inbox, put it in a folder, and it'll do it automatically. So you don't have to sit there and go click, drag, click, drag. It just happens automatically. And you can always, let me go back here. You can always see what filters you have set up, and that's where the filters are. So I have, this filter right here, where every time I get an email from this email address, it skips the inbox. It marks it as read, and it puts it in the folder UMRA, because it's just a nightly thing that I get. Okay, so those are things that you can do inside of Gmail. Really easy to set up.
John, we have a few questions about archived emails.
Yeah.
The one thing I know about archived emails is that search bar that you were showing us, and you were showing us to filter it, it's also a search bar. I do know that if you search, these archived emails will come up in your search results, but we've got some questions about where do those emails go? Or is there an archive folder? And let's see, can you retrieve it? So yeah, if you can talk a little bit more about archived folders or emails.
Yeah, so if something is archived, okay, if something is archived, basically what you just told Google is, I don't want to see it. Okay, and if notice, all I did is I went up to the top and I tapped on archive. I started typing in archive and it said anything with the label of archive. And here's all the emails that are archived. So it doesn't really make a folder per se. And let me just check. It may be down here. Let's say it's not one of the ones that I would want to look at, because if I'm archiving it, I don't want to look at it. But if you don't want to look at it and all of a sudden you want to pull it back up again, you could say, what's in the archive? And what if you're looking for a specific email that's in the archive? You could even say, well, if it's got the label archive and it has a specific word in it, so test. As that, so if it's got the label of archive, so you've archived it, and it's got the word test in it, let's see what comes up. So I didn't have any messages in there. Okay, so it's probably a bad word to choose, but I think the only thing I have archived are the Cortana emails. As you can see, we used to be inside of Outlook. But you can come here, you can click on an email, and it's just like it's in your inbox. The only difference is it doesn't have the label of inbox. So if you notice, I'm going to click back on my training. Every label that an email has, it shows right here on the email. So notice this one says inbox. Well, if I click this, it's no longer in my inbox. Okay. And archiving is really just a label. And a label, all it is it's something that you can search by. So notice, in order to search for things in a label that you don't see, you can just label, colon, don't put any spaces in there, just label, colon, and archive. And there you go. All of your stuff that's in your archive. And if you want to, if you really want it back in your inbox, you can come here and you can label it as. So you could come down and find a specific label where you want it, or you could even move it to somewhere else. Okay, so you can move it wherever you want. But just because it's archived, it's not gone. It's completely searchable. It's different than the archive inside of Outlook. All it does is it says, you know what, I don't want to see it in my inbox. So if you want to archive everything that you've handled, you could do that. It's not gone. It's there. Okay, it works just like any other label. Okay, oh, there's my archive label. There's everything in archive. Okay.
Oh, let's take a look at that question from Laura Goodwin. That's a great question. Can you archive folders or all of your emails from the previous school year?
All right, so this is kind of a fun one. Okay, so let's say I wanted to find, I'm not going to use the search because I don't know how I would type this in. Let's see. Search all mail. What if I went not within 1 day? Let's go within 1 year of, let's go all the way back. So July 2020. So I'll go within a year of July 1st of 2020. And if I search that, so it's going to pull up all of my emails. So there's everything back to, notice it only goes to July 2nd. Okay. If I click those emails, it's only going to click 50 because that's how many I'm showing. But there's this bar right here. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't see this for about 6 months because I just didn't read it. But I can click here where it says select all conversations that match this search. So if I select all conversations that match that search, I can come here and archive. And it will archive everything that's there. So notice what I did is I said it's within a year of a date. So it went back to that date and anything within a year. So here's the search. So I just clicked buttons because I didn't know how it wanted me to type it. But there we go. I can click. So now this is everything after July 1st of 2019 and before July 2nd of 2021. So that's the search that it did. So every email that fits in there, notice all I did, let me uncheck it. So I clicked everything and then I come over here and say select all conversations. If you don't choose this button, then of course you can do this 50 at a time, but if you have 2,000 emails, 50 at a time isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. So yeah, that was an amazing one because I had to clean out my personal Gmail account and I wanted to get rid of everything that was more than, I don't know, 30 days old.
Can you show us really quickly how you did that search, how you started that search one more time? Somebody's like, wait, I forgot, I missed the beginning.
No, you're fine. So I just cleared out my search and it may already be blank, but I come here to this little icon. I don't even know what it is. Looks like a tuner. And I said, okay, so if I want everything from July 1st of 2021 all the way back to, let's just say the last year. So the date that I'm going to choose is I'm going to go back 1 year. And I'm going to choose July 1st. So notice this one is within a day. So that would be like June 30th to July 2nd. And I'm going to say anything that's within a year of that. And I hit search. Now, if you're looking, you're like, you know what? I actually only wanted back to the 1st. I could change the date right here. I'll hit enter. And it just got rid of everything that was during those days. Or that was during, July 1st and 2nd. Okay. So that's all I did is I clicked here and I adjusted my search right here. Because this one just makes a little bit more sense to me. I can say within the, a day, 3 days, a week, 6 months, a year. And once you have those emails there, click, select all conversations, archive. So that is something that you can definitely do. Let's say you didn't want to archive them. Let's say you actually wanted to put them into a folder. I could say, you know what, I'm going to create a new label. And I'm going to call this 2020 to 2021. I'm going to create that label. And what it will do is it can move everything that's here into that label. Okay? So that is something that you could do. You could mass label everything. And then you could mass remove all the other labels that you had if you'd like. Okay. I'm not going to do it because I still need to address some things from this past year, as is always the case. Right? All right. Jenny, do we have any other Any other questions?
We do, and I'm just going to say to everybody, way up in the chat, I think I have missed a couple, so a little bit of grace and just go ahead and pop your question back in the chat. Araceli was asking just a second ago, what is next label? Maybe Araceli, if you can clarify.
Are you asking for my clarification? Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
So some of us, where I'm from Cabrillo Point Academy, and some of us had to switch last year from Outlook to Gmail, so it was quite the shock. And so Outlook was just, I don't know, I speak for myself, I guess, just very easy dragging the folders in. You click, 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 click. You wanted it under, you know, Jenny Thomas, so you take all Jenny Thomas's emails, drag them over. But I'm finding, and maybe it's just me because I'm still learning, I feel, that when I drag Jenny Thomas's emails over, they still show in the inbox. Is that just user error? I don't want them to be there. I want them gone. And so Outlook, they were completely gone out of the inbox. And can you group them, finding Jenny's emails? Is it just as, because I've been trying to mess with that a little bit this summer to get organized. Do you understand? Is that clear a little bit better?
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, so when you add a label to something, it doesn't remove a label. An inbox, all inbox is a label. So everything that comes in automatically gets the inbox label. So if you want to, now notice this one, if I click this X on inbox, I can remove that one from the inbox. But that's one email at a time. That seems a little, I know that that's not going to be the most fun thing to do, because I'm guessing you're not dealing with 1 or 2 emails. We tend to deal in masses. So what you can do, and this is why I was shown, you can do this, create a filter. You can filter messages like these. So let's say it was emails from Jenny Thomas. So I could say if they're from Jenny Thomas, I can create a filter, or they're from Jenny Thomas and they have a specific subject. You can skip the inbox. Okay, so if you skip the inbox, basically it's archiving it. So it would end up in your archive. Or you can...
He's never gonna read an email from me again.
I know. Or I could skip the inbox and apply a label. So that's something that you could do. You could set up a filter so it does it and does it all the time. If that doesn't work for you, the other thing you could do is just search. So if I search for emails, from Jenny Thomas, I'll just do mine, because I tend to only email myself weird things. But so if I do this, if I get an email from John Morgan, again, I can now come here and say, okay, let me click this. I could select all the conversations, and I could say, okay, let's archive those, which takes it out of the inbox. When you archive something, that's the only time you actually remove a label from it, unless you physically go in and uncheck a label. But you could archive it. You could move them.
What if I wanted to go to John Morgan's folder because I want to reference something back? I mean, I can search it in the bar, but what if I want all of those to go in John Morgan's a little folder over there?
Okay, so the order that I would do this in is I would go ahead and I'll just do this one. So I'm going to archive all of these. So what it did is it just archived every email that's from me. So it's loading right now. So now they're all archived. Okay. The other thing that I can do is now I can come here and say, okay, now that they're archived, meaning they're no longer in my inbox, now I click on the same emails and I label them as something. So I can come in and I could create a new folder called John Morgan, and I create that. And now everything that's here, I want to put in the folder John Morgan. Apply. So notice all of these emails just got this label. So I'll click, well, I don't click away. Okay. So all of my emails will be that match that will have the label John Morgan. I think, let's see, do these ones have it? I have to check why those ones didn't get it, but Everything that was from John Morgan has the label of John Morgan. And so if I click on that label, and remember, because I archived them first, they won't show up in the inbox. Because I then put them in that folder, now they're not in my inbox and they're in my folder. So it's just a two-step thing where you archive it and put it into the folder. So I know it is a little bit more, and I apologize for that, but it's because Google wants to make sure that you have the option of doing both.
Then you could, if you did that first, then you could go in and archive them later. It doesn't matter what step you do first, just to get them out of your inbox. Okay.
It does not, and I actually think moving them to the folder is probably moving them to the folder first is safer. That's why I did it the other way, to see, because
thank you.
If I was going to break it, I was going to break it on mine.
Thank you.
My pleasure. My chat. Oh, there we go. Mass hide all the labels so I don't have to hide them one at a time. Yeah, so let's go over that real quick. So when you go to settings and see all settings, under the labels, you can actually determine whether or not you want to show or hide them. So you could come down here and you could show and hide all of the labels. And notice you can show, hide, or you can just say, just show them if there's something that's unread in there, which is kind of a nice little feature, because then it will only show you the things where there are unread emails. So that's definitely something that you can do. And you would come down here and you'd click them. You do have to click the folders one by one, but at least you can come down and just do it all in one fell swoop and then be back.
Two more questions in the chat, John.
Yeah.
Is there a way to combine old Gmail accounts? I'm thinking forwarding, but maybe you have another idea. And then Bonnie's asking about asking Gmail to not group the emails. And I get that request a lot.
I'm assuming grouping the emails was more like conversation view, like this. So if you'd rather have it, and notice I'm going to click on the settings. If I uncheck conversation view, it's going to ask me to reload because it has to think about it for a second. But now I come down to, I come down here to the same exact folder and everything is ungrouped. So I'm guessing that's what the discussion was around. Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm happy to show it again because I want to turn it back on. So real quick, under the settings cog at the very bottom, there's one checkbox that says conversation view. So if you like it to not be grouped, you do not want this box checked. If you want it to be grouped, I like it to be grouped, you check the box. So let me go back to the same folder. And there we go. Now they're grouped. That's the way that I like to see it, but that's just me. Right.
And then I know that you wanted to show this, so let's go to Nancy Sandoval's question. Is there a way to create events directly from an email?
Yes.
She uses Boomerang, but there's a monthly limit on the free subscription.
Okay, so let's say I wanted to create an event out of this. So this is, I was doing some training in the district. This was a training that I had. So I received this confirmation email. There's this little sidebar on the right of Gmail, and one of the sidebars is calendar, and it'll pull up your calendar. There's also a Google Keep, which you can do the same thing in Keep. But let's say I wanted to go out and event if I wanted to. But if I wanted to do this tomorrow, I could click on my calendar. And what it did is it took the subject of the email and made it the title of the event. and I could come down and highlight everything that's here. Let me do that again, highlight. And I can copy that, and then I can come here to my description, and I could, paste it right there. So now all I did without ever leaving Gmail, I just used this little sidebar, and you could add guests, you could change the time, rooms, location. You can even add a Google Meet if you wanted to right from there. And if you save this event, if I save the event, it'll put it onto my calendar. You can even, from here, you could even change which calendar if you wanted to put it on. Okay. So that is something that you can do and save the event. I'm going to go ahead and discard it though, because I don't want that. Well, let me see what the question is first, or what the chat was first. Does the side automatically show? It should. It should be there. So if you don't see it, I'd be interested to know why. Okay, that's so RSLE, that's not possible. When you group the conversations, it will always do the most recent is actually at the bottom. And the reason that is, let me go ahead and get rid of this event real quick. Close that out. The reason that is because it wants to have the reply button right here. So you only are looking at the most recent. Now, this is only in the view. So notice it's, oldest email and then chronologically through time. If I hit reply, it's got the email here, but the 3 dots, when you reply to somebody, it is all together and it's in the order that you want. But I know some people wanted to flip it in the view. It's not possible to flip it in the view. Yeah, I will say this. I didn't like it when I started. And then once I started getting into it, it was actually really nice. I actually prefer it this way now. I was going back to Outlook and I didn't see that. Yeah, the sidebar, by the way, if anybody uses Google Keep, so if I come here and I actually load my Google Keep and I hit take a note, here's the nice thing, is it actually grabbed the email. So if I go to, if I make a list, so let's say I can archive or delete that. Let's delete it real quick. If I do checkboxes, and I say here's my to-do list from this email is get this and that. Okay. When I have this list, it'll actually have a link to the actual email inside of that Google Keep list, so I can remember where I got that from. So yeah, Google Keep is probably one of my favorites. And then, yeah, when you do forward an email, everybody will see the whole thread. Let me just show you something real quick. So if I come to the bottom and I hit reply, they will see every email before it. If I come here and I hit reply, okay, let me click these 3 dots. Notice they only see the one email that was right before it. So wherever you are, wherever you do click reply, that's where you get to. Or that's what you see. You see everything kind of above it. All right. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. I know that there's, just want to make sure I reinforce, I've put out there the easiest way to get a lot of the information about Google Slide or Google Mail is actually just to Google it, because they change buttons, they move them here and there. And then when they do that, they go to their documentation and they update it. So best ways to do that, or just flat out ask your question. Every time they update it, I think people are very excited to go in and update their documentation and ask and add those questions. But I know we're running out of time and they need to jump over to the next session. So I want to say thank you all. Hopefully this was very helpful. It's email. If you're moving from one system to another, buttons just moved, and I know it can be inconvenient. So hopefully this was very helpful. We went through some things, made it very practical. But yeah, and thank you very much. And you guys all have my email address, so feel free to reach out through email, and I'm happy to help you out. So Have a great, yes.
I just want to share that because we've been asked a few times for the recordings for the session. All of the session recordings will be sent to all of the participants in the future. Okay, I'm personally going to jump to my next session, and thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and close out this session. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your morning.